Laramie live on KOWB is mobile and local. Listen on the go with Radio Pup.
All right, David Settle back with you. It's 8:45. Our pleasure to welcome back to the program Andrew Arnold from Solid Rock Outdoor Ministries. I can't say anything today, Andrew, so don't be offended. I'm sorry, but I can apparently say many words today. So how are you doing? It's been a little bit since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's great to be back, David. It's great to see you. Kind of wrapping up the summer, and so I think we probably spoke last in the spring. So it's great to be back.
Yeah, I was back, I want to say, in May or so, but you guys had students come in from not only across the country, which I find fascinating, but even Canada, Australia coming this year. I know that you guys were very thankful that things got completed without any sort of major complications. You had to deal with some interesting weather at times with some of these trips, but it sounds like a great summer in terms of some of this leadership training and team building and individual building, basically.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we did have students come from all over the country and then even parts of the world, which is pretty awesome. It's amazing that in little Laramie, we can draw even internationally. So, yeah, we had a student from Australia. We had several students from Canada. And then all around the country from literally all parts of the U.S. And yeah, we had some weather out there in the mountains this summer. In fact, we had on multiple occasions in the Wind River Range there in central Wyoming between Pinedale and Lander, snowstorms hit our teams.
Wow.
Literal blizzards in July hit our teams. Whiteout conditions, cold, snow, wild. In fact, one night I think it snowed about a foot on one of our teams.
Really?
A foot.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, I think that's all part of it. And I think you mentioned leadership development. And when you're out there, you really have to just respond to what you get. You get sunny weather, you get a lightning storm, you get rain, you get snow. And we really coach our students that this is all part of leadership development and character formation, because I think a key leadership quality is this idea of tolerance for adversity or having resilience. So when it gets hard, you have this ability to kind of persist and keep going. And when you get weather like that, it really lends to this experiential learning of, wow, this is hard and I'm cold and this is not fun, but I'm going to continue to persist. I'm going to continue to take care of myself and my team members. So there's a ton of great learning that happens.
There's got to be a ton of growth as an individual, because you got to really learn how to survive in some drastic elements.
Yeah, and we had students really kind of come to a lot of what we would call the end of themselves. You get students who have never been in the snow before, ever. They're from Texas. They're from the Southeast. They've never even seen snow.
Wow.
And now they're being asked to get up early, cook breakfast, break down their tents, pack their backpacks, and start hiking, in the middle of a snowstorm. And they really it tests your mettle, and you kind of find out what you're capable of. And it's really awesome just to be challenged that way. And we saw students grow. And one of the things that we really talked about is this idea of, we use the word, and I hope this is okay to say, but embrace the suck. That is to say, like when it's difficult, you just got to embrace it. And in the midst of that, you'll grow. So yeah, kind of an interesting term, and I think that's okay. But
I think you're okay with that.
Okay,
you're
good,
okay
good.
with that. I had the privilege of talking with some ladies who had been out on one of the 40-day courses in early August. And some of the things that they talked about and what they learned about themselves, how they grew as individuals, and working together, but also kind of working through some things individually was interesting. What were some of the biggest pieces you took away from testimonials from some of these students this year?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a great question. When our students come back, we have them share to the larger community. We actually have these parties at the end of every trip where people come from around town, even around the country, their friends, their family, and we have a party, we have a celebration, dinner, and then they get to share a little about what happened internally and externally in their lives. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, of course, there was tremendous character formation and growth. But, as a young adult, you're kind of wrestling with these issues of identity and purpose and who am I and where do I belong and what am I to do with my life? And a lot of times those ideas and those thoughts start to get crystallized and form in the hearts and minds of students. And I think we just saw testimonies of where students were maybe struggling. I mean, we admittedly had students struggling with addictions. We had students struggling with, self-harm. And that's not we're a therapy program, but these are just some of the things that are out there nowadays. And we really had students kind of break free of a lot of that, kind of come out of that and find who they were and begin to grow in that. So, that's a real testimony to just the programming. We would say that's a testimony to God and His goodness and His love, and then just people growing and maturing. It's pretty cool. So we saw a lot of that this summer. It was really neat.
Well, this generation can have some difficult times because you mentioned, finding out who they are, but also, maybe you get done with college and you don't find work in your field. And so as you see some of those trends, do you see that growth in terms of problem solving, decision making, in terms of, this is how I overcome, the lack of work in my field, and this is what it's going to take for me to take steps to maybe it's not a direct path, but kind of get around. Do you see that growth in some of these individuals?
Yeah, we do. And in fact, I would say that's a consistent testimony where we have students that come in and they say, I never thought I could do what I did on one of these wilderness courses, whether that's a 7-day course or a 40-day course. Like, I never thought I was capable of that. And then in the midst of that, they see what they are capable of, and then they transfer that, or they translate that to where they go back home to. So we've had students even reporting back to us that says, what the things I learned, the skills I learned, like you mentioned, problem solving, communication, understanding my own strengths, my own abilities, has translated into me finding jobs, thinking outside the box and what I'm capable of. Transferring or applying what I learned in the wilderness to the marketplace and to different environments. And they've found success going back home because, the marketplace is tough. There's not a lot of jobs. And so, I would agree. Those are some skills that students have learned.
We're visiting with Andrew Arnold from Solid Rock Outdoor Ministries this morning here at Laramie Live on KOWB on a Tuesday. And there's all kinds of different directions and choices that, young people face nowadays. And so the students that come through your programs, in terms of making that kind of that right choice and positioning themselves for the future, what have you heard in terms of feedback from these kids, maybe that will help them, help another individual in their life or somebody else they may encounter down the road?
Yeah. It's this idea of maybe we say in the larger culture, like pay it forward, or do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, this kind of golden rule idea. And I think we do find students that are so impacted by what happened, either what they've done and accomplished personally or what happened in the context of a community that loved them and supported them and empowered them, that it's almost like a paradigm shift. Like, you see life in a different way that you hadn't seen it before. And then it inspires you or motivates you or compels you to kind of change the way you live, the way you think, the way you act. And I think a lot of times that impacts the people that they go back to, where they, maybe I'll use an example of just, like you said, encouraging or supporting another individual in their community. They realize, wow, when I'm supported and I'm encouraged and I'm edified and built up, that it feels good and I find myself being successful. Not just that it feels good, but like my life is better. And then they take those kind of skills and they bring them back to the communities they go back to. And I mean, we have students, I'm just thinking of a student that is actually up in Powell right now. He went to Northwest Community College after his STROM experience. And he's starting to take students out on rock climbing trips and backpacking trips and introducing them to the wilderness. And more than that, just introducing them to living life together, teamwork, community building, overcoming challenges. And it's really cool. So he's doing that now as a freshman up at Northwest.
You guys obviously went through a lot with these different, 40, 20-day courses out there. Sounds like these are becoming more and more popular. How are you handling kind of this growth, I guess, Andrew?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are seeing growth in this area.
Okay.
And it's good. It can be stretching at times. It's like any endeavor, as you grow, there's more issues, logistics, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're seeing is we're finding people that are more interested in coming to work for us and being part of our staff. We're seeing people from around the country showing an interest in, hey, I want to come to Laramie, I want to work, I want to be a part of this. So I think that's one way. And I think we're just continuing to fine-tune how we do what we do. And I think every year, I'm encouraged because I think we have this commitment to always improving and always being excellent. So if it didn't work great, let's make it better. If it worked good, let's make it great. And so I think we're just continuing to reflect and refine what we do to make it great. And I think that's also helping with the growth. And I think as we look to the future, we're just wanting to continue to expand what we do into a year-round format, where we're looking at doing stuff in the fall. I think last time I was on the show, I mentioned our semester program.
Right.
We're looking at launching a program in the fall 2016 where we actually take people out for about 80 days.
Wow.
80 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the fall, no less.
In the fall, but we'll probably end up down in the desert, Grand Canyon area for part of that.
Okay.
Kind of get out of the real cold stuff. But using that as essentially a different kind of classroom where students can actually get college credit, but they're learning leadership skills, they're learning about the environment, they're learning about character and natural history, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what we're looking at for the fall. And then in the spring, just looking at expanding programming in the Southwest. And, those are just opportunities for growth. And
so right now you guys are kind of, I guess, wrapping up what just took place, but you guys are also going to use this fall and winter to kind of build and plan ahead for the spring and then obviously summer next year, plus that fall course you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And I think you and anybody that's in business and running organizations can identify with, you have these big seasons of work, but then in the quote unquote off season, there's a lot of work that has to be done to kind of get ready for the next season.
Right.
And I think that's really the phase we're in right now is we're preparing and planning and looking to the future for next season. So yeah. That's kind of where we're at. It's been a great year, great summer, and we're excited for what's next.
Real quick, because I'm running out of time here in the hour, but as you guys get ready to launch this accredited wilderness semester program next fall, so we're talking about a year away from this, in addition to developing students and youth individually, it also allows you to develop instructors at the same time, and then kind of goes back to what you were talking about with the young man up at Northwest in Powell.
Yeah, and I think what we're finding is one of our biggest limiting factors is just having instructors that are qualified, experienced, keep our students safe, and manage risk out there because that's real. And this semester program is really going to allow us to do that. We're going to continue to develop our Wilderness Ministry Professionals course and really just believing and hoping and praying to attract people from around the country, around the state and around the country who really have a heart and a desire to do what we're doing.
Best way to get in contact with you guys if folks are interested in getting involved or maybe sending their child, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
I'd say just the simplest way would be the website, SROM.org, Solid Rock Outdoor Ministries. And that's the acronym SROM.org.
All right. That's the best way to get in contact with them. And, you guys have fun in the off-season planning for next year. I appreciate you coming in and kind of recapping things.
Really appreciate it, man. It's always great to be here.